Well, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to the Farm Kenya show. I'm Nokip Kimboy, and today we're discussing something that is very pertinent when we touch on, agribusiness at large. At the heart of agribusiness, of which this particular show focuses on, is the issue of food. And food has to be handled in a particular way if it is told to be consumed and to be beneficial and have the benefits that we intend to have when it comes to health and achieving the overall food security as a country. Now, at the heart of that is food safety. And this runs through the value chain, all the way from production to the plate, that is consumption. The whole journey, we have to be very intentional to make sure that this food, from the way it's produced, from the way it's transported, from the way it is handled in the markets, to your kitchen, you as a consumer, it is handled in a manner that is safe for your end consumption, which will be very healthy for you. So, it's a very pertinent discussion. And today in studio, we have Maureen Mwangi, who is the Food Safety Auditor at Art and Fields Kenya. Thank you very much, Maureen, for making time to speak to the Farm Kenya show.
Thank you for having me here. Hoping to have a great show.
Definitely. So for starters, Maureen, food safety, sometimes you hear food safety and you're thinking of food on the plate, because that's where you're looking, okay, where was this food cooked? How does it look? Who washed the vegetables, Yeah. But this one starts all the way from how food is produced. And I'd like us to walk that particular journey for our audience to be able to understand why it's important to handle food safely in all these particular stages. But for starters, overall, when you talk about the status of food safety in the country and the world all over, where do we sit as a country? Is majority of the food that we're eating safe? Are there concerns and loopholes that we need to fill?
Thank you very much for that question. And looking at it and where we are as a country, I can say confidently that most of the farmers are trying to see that they are producing safe food. And looking at it from how the food is handled, and especially when the farmers are bringing their produce to the pack houses, and especially for the regulated pack houses, you will tell that the farmers are trying to consider the end consumer, though we still have gaps, and especially when it comes to local market. But for export market, they have really tried to see that they have regulated, and most of their farmers are also certified. But for the local market, I think we need to do a lot of work to ensure that there are regulation in place, and that farmers also are aware of food safety, because most of the farmers do not understand what food safety really is. Yes.
And that's very critical. Is the gap, do we have policy? Because as a country, most of the times we say that we are very good on paper. Most of the problem comes when it comes to implementing, rather. You might have very good policies, but implementation is a little bit of a challenge. In the area of food safety, how do we look policy-wise vis-a-vis implementation?
As you have just said, policies are there, but when it comes to implementation, there is a gap. And the gap comes in because we do not have regulators who are seeing, before you take your product to Marikiti or any other major market here in Kenya, have you followed the steps that are supposed to be followed? That is lacking for local market. But when it comes to like export market, now because they know there will be tests done for their produce, samples are taken before they even export, maybe 1 week before they export. There, they usually check that they have followed and confirmed each and every batch. But now for the local market, even if we have the policies and we keep on talking about policies, implementation, we have a huge gap. which needs to have regulators on the ground, not only sitting in a boardroom and talking about implementation, people doing the real work. Seeing before you harvest your tomatoes as a farmer and before the broker comes to take the produce to the market, they have checked. If it is PHI, have you followed the PHI? If it is for like vegetables, are you using clean water to irrigate your farm, or your farm is just close by and we have a sewage running near your farm, so you're using that water to irrigate produce which will go to the market. So implementers and regulators, we have a gap when it comes to local market.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you go by town, some of the even in Githurai, you see those vegetables that are looking so green, then your friend tells you, know where these ones are produced. Yeah? You don't want to know, you just buy them. But that's a different conversation. I'd like us to go at the production level, and you talk about food safety. It starts on how we start producing. Sure. At the farm level, what should the farmers be doing to ensure this whole value chain? Because if they mess it up there, I mean, doing away with the damages up the value chain is almost impossible. At the farm level, what are the guidelines that we should have to ensure that food safety is maintained at that production level?
Well, looking at the farm level, and I'll go back and say, when we say about food safety, we are not talking about a certificate. We are talking about a process. And that's why we will talk about stages, so that we can ensure whatever the consumer is consuming, it's safe. So at the farm level, the farmer, before they start producing any crop, they need to have their farms set right. And when we go, if I give an example, when we are doing an audit for a farmer who wants to do an extensive supply, we usually go to the farm and confirm from the trainings he has conducted to the staff who are handling the product. We are looking at documentation. Is this farmer aware of the inputs that they are using? Are the suppliers of the inputs like fertilizers, pesticides, are they certified? Do they have material data sheet for the product that they are using at the farm? When we go to their stores, how are they keeping farm tools? How are they handling staff PPEs? PPEs, it's personal protective equipment. Are they mixing them with fertilizers in the same store? When we say about the tools like fork, djembes, and the rest, are they cleaning them? And how are they maintaining them after maybe day's work?
Yes.
And also at the farm level, we are looking at the topography of their farm.
Okay.
Have they put measures in place? Let's say they are telling us we are farming organically. Do you have a buffer zone? A buffer zone, it's like you plant trees around your farm to ensure your neighbor who is farming convectionary, once they spray, the drifts are not coming to your crop, which you're saying it's organic. So when we come to visit your farm, we are looking at all these things to be sure that whatever you're saying you're producing, it is safe. Then we go to another thing that most farmers currently are not doing, maybe export farmers, but for local market, most of farmers do not check their soils, whether the soils are supporting whatever crop they are growing. And also before harvest, they do not take samples to the laboratories to check whether we have residual traces, and also they don't do traceability. Traceability is where you can be able to explain where you bought the seedlings, when you planted, how you will handle that crop in between before the harvest. After harvesting, how are you planning to handle that product before it goes to the market? And can you be able to trace each and every crate if it's for tomatoes? Can you be able to trace it back if a client complains? are you able to trace until we go to the plot that you grew that product from? So traceability, we also check whether a farmer can be able to explain back to back. That is from supplier to the farm, from farm to the consumer, from consumer to the farm.
Okay.
So those are the things that we usually check, and we can emphasize to farmers who are looking to do farming as a business, because I feel like most of farming which is being done, sorry to say so, it's for making money, quick money. But now when you are talking about food security as a country, we need to put measures in place, and these are most of the things that are supposed to be checked, and these are the things that we check for farmers who are being certified for export market. So the same should be replicated for local market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we look at what we eat at the end of the day as the local market, it's coming almost 80% from smallholder farmers. So the likelihood that the food that we eat every day was produced by somebody who has maybe, I don't know the classification of farmers, but somebody who has less than 5 acres, for example, they do their farming, at the end, mboga zinakaa vizuri, tuchune, tuuze. And those measures that you've said are not followed per se, and there is no enforcement at the end of the day. Maybe speaking to that segment, because those are majority of the producers in the country, not by volumes, just by supply. How do we incentivize small farmers to be able to do the soil test, to ensure around their farms they have those buffered, the trees, and after harvesting, they also are able to take time to test their products, whether it's safe, whether there are any residues, if at all they're doing conventional farming. How do we incentivize smallholder farmers to be able to do so?
Thank you for that question. And I'm very happy that farms like Art and Fields Kenya, one of our core pillars, it is creating awareness when it comes to food safety. And where this idea was born from, it was because one of our auditors or co-founders was working at a pack house. And they realized most of the times when farmers supply, the produce were mostly rejected because maybe the handling was poor during transportation or during harvesting. And you could see the frustration on farmers' face because they had put in the work, and then on delivering, the quality assurance on the ground rejects the whole batch. So we saw there was need, because once the farmer was asked whether they were aware of what will be checked, they never knew what was expected. Then they grew the crop and they thought, once we have the produce, this will be acceptable. And so what we have been doing to try and see that we are reaching to the small-scale farmers, we have been doing training, massive trainings, or like Art and Fields Kenya holds workshops where we take small groups of farmers to farmers who are doing well commercially, like in farming, and we take them to their farm so that they can be trained and also be equipped on what is expected. And when you talk of food safety, what we are really talking about. And also we have been looking into it from a point of view. See, now we're in the era of technology, and most of the youths right now, most of them are doing agriculture. And where can we find them? Mostly on social medias. So we are doing posts talking about food safety at the farm level and what is expected, and especially looking at it from an auditor's eye, so that they can know, as we are setting the farms and as we want to go back to agriculture, this is how we can do smart agriculture. And other than the post and the workshops, we also try to emphasize when we have like events where farmers will be coming together to learn. We do a lot of like communication to ensure we have most farmers attending such events, though we still have an issue when it comes to the location of where those events are being held. Because, for example, if an event is being held in Nairobi and a farmer is farming in Murang'a County, most of them feel like the distance will it will be a barrier. So what our aim is, as we continue creating awareness, it's going to where the farmers are and seeing whether we can have those events held at those levels where they can be comfortable attending. That way we will be able to create this awareness about food safety and also bridge the knowledge gap when it comes to food safety and setting the farms right.
All right. So information gap is a huge one, especially among smallholder farmers. So making sure they are properly informed. That's very important, I believe. And again, still on the smallholder farmers, in terms of policy support, where we look legally, because this is the food that we are eating, majority of us, at the production level, especially smallholder. If I have 10,000 acres and I start farming something, most likely an authority in the area has a clue this guy grows mangoes at this scale. So there's always checkup, are you doing what is right? For smallholder farmers, is there a nature of support? Because I know extension officers back in the day really used to help a lot. But that number has been reducing over the years. What do you think is the kind of support that will help smallholder farmers at the production level to sort of avoid some of these common mistakes that many do that hinders on or sort of compromises food safety?
One thing that I can say when it comes to extension services, it's now collaboration. And when we talk about collaboration, mostly it will come from the county level, where, for example, giving an example with the county I come from, they have categorized the cash crops. So they know which area of their county is doing which crop. And now it's up to the county government to ensure these smallholder farmers, because they make up to 80% of farmers who are doing local supplies. So they can ensure the farmers who are doing, let's say, mangoes, they are under one umbrella. We call them cooperatives. So that when the extension officer is sent, he will know we are going to help this group, which is in this location. And during the field visits, they already know if it's pests, which pests are this group dealing with. And when they go to another village, they know this village, they are being faced by this challenge when it comes to pests, and they are using this input to maybe counter-attack, which is not safe when consumed. So from there, now they will give the feedback to the county government. And from there, I believe we will be able to support those farmers doing small-scale farming.
Yeah. A lot of collaboration,
yes,
cross collaboration. Counties, so far, you come from which county?
Muranga County.
Muranga, you're playing low, like, I don't want to shout Muranga. But so far you can see the power of devolution, especially on the farming sector?
I can say so, because most of the farmers right now, they are not struggling that much when it comes to market, because like recent incident where mango farmers from this, I can call it southern part of Muranga, where they do a lot of mangoes, the county government collaborated with Food for Education, and they collected the mangoes from the farmers. So that is nice. And at least now farmers do not have the worry of where they will sell their mangoes to. Also, there are other products which the county government is supporting the farmers, but now the gap comes in when it comes to food safety, because it is not like widely talked about. So I feel like also county governments can also work with food safety experts, as much as they are looking into it from a point of quantity and amount. They also need to look at it from a perspective of safety and quality, because as much as we have a lot of supplies, is it safe for consumption? So the same way they are collaborating with extension officers, they can also collaborate with food safety experts so that they can be able to guide those farmers to set their farms right and have the safe products for consumers.
Definitely. Very, very important. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, is now we start going up the value chain, talk about once you've tested, your product, it has there's no residues, it's safe to take to the market. What are the compromises from the farm to the market that are normally made that hinders food safety, and how can we correct that? And also at the market level, and finally in the home level also, we have something to do. So right now, we want to take a short break. Remember, this is a Farm Kenya show, and today we're talking about food safety. Let's take a short break. We'll return with more. All right, welcome back to the Farm Kenya show, and we are discussing matters to do with food safety. Maureen Mwangi is the food safety auditor at Art and Fields Kenya, and earlier on we had touched at the farm level what needs to happen to make sure that we are producing our food very well. At the tail end of that, you said when before harvesting, farmers are urged to test their products so that whatever is going out into the market is safe, doesn't have residues. Talk to me about that from farm to now transportation, that transition. How critical is it when you talk matters food safety?
So when we go to after now farm, before we go to the market, we have handling which happens. And maybe we can look at it from two sides. Handling at the farm, when the staff or whomever is harvesting that crop is doing the harvest, where mostly we have, we can cover losses due to poor handling. And mostly it comes when, let's say, a farmer was given batch to produce. And the batch that they are ready to harvest, it was a batch which was fumigated, or maybe pests were sprayed like a week ago. Not even a week ago, 3 days ago. And now here comes, let's say, a broker, if we may call them so, but they are middlemen. That is the right term to call them. He's here and he's insisting the tomatoes are ready, for example. And the farmer knows very well the pesticides that they used should, the tomatoes should stay for like 7 days before the harvest. But they are not willing to communicate that to the broker because here is ready money. So that is one handling that happens at the farm level, where communication gap is not well handled between the broker or the middleman and the farmer. Another handling is now during the harvest, where the team that is harvesting, maybe they are not taking care of the produce. And tomato is a living product, we may say so. If it is poorly handled, we start having losses right there and then. It might not be seen physically at the moment of maybe packing in those crates, but by the time it comes to the market, it has started changing, maybe internally. And for the consumer, while you're buying the tomato, you can't see what is happening until you cut it. And so how does that affect in terms of food safety? If the tomato is good looking, how is it affecting the consumer? But you see, the person was handling that tomato during harvest. Maybe the level of hygiene was not good. Their hands were not clean. And they are handling a tomato, maybe the block that they are harvesting, the next block was sprayed 2 days ago. So they are jumping from one plot to another plot, carrying, we call it cross-contamination. The pesticides that were used on this plot, which should stay for 7 days, it's being transferred to the ready to be harvested tomatoes. And that comes with the tomato to the market. And you as a consumer, because you are not there and you're not even keen to know where the tomatoes came from, you just buy the tomatoes, and there is cross-contamination which happened. So we have some residues of pesticides used from one plot to the plot that was harvested for the batch that you are buying. So you see the handling is affecting the farmer, I mean the consumer, because of carefree spirit at the farm level between the farmer and the middleman who is purchasing the tomatoes. Then we can also look at it during transportation, the vehicle that is transporting that product. That is an area no one cares about, and it is also affecting, because you will find this middleman who is purchasing the tomatoes, they don't own a vehicle. So what do they do once they find a farm which has ready produce to be purchased? They go, maybe lease a truck. That truck was being used to carry something like, I don't want to use sewage, but something which is not food. And it was not cleaned, because there is no one who is regulating that to see the truck that is carrying this product from the farm to the market, it is hygienically okay. So the truck is loaded and cross-contamination happens. That product comes to the market, consumers buy without knowing which truck and the status of the truck that delivered. So that is how food safety is being affected now during transportation from the farm to the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can see a lot of roles played there, especially off-takers, because market access in our economy is normally a challenge. Of course, the middlemen, as you say, they control especially local markets. Sometimes some farmers have tried to access the market directly, and it becomes very difficult. So I can see there as one of the major intervention points. If within the off-takers, this middlemen, is there something that could be done, in a sense, because they're part and parcel of the ecosystem? Is there a level of interventions that could be done from them that could sort of bring down this issue? If a middleman comes and says, okay, when did you last spray this? Mimi nachukuanga zenye as they're properly, zimepatiwa time for the spray to lie. That, I think, will sort of reduce that. So are there any interventions working with also middlemen, or is, for them it's all about cash?
I'll say, when we usually talk about food safety, we say food safety is everyone's responsibility. It is your responsibility, it's mine. And we will look at it backwards. You see, you as a consumer, you are the one controlling the market. It's not even the middleman. And this is why. If you take responsibilities matters food safety, you will be keen to ask where you buy your tomatoes. Are you able to tell me where these tomatoes came from? Get the concept? If they are not able, if all of us take the responsibility, we will make my mama mboga be accountable to want to know from whom she's buying the tomatoes from. If she's not aware of where the tomatoes are coming from, we decide all of us we are moving. I know it's hard, but if we decide all of us will be buying our tomatoes from a supermarket where they follow up, for supermarkets, they know where their produce come from. But when it comes to normal market, the local market where most of us purchase, our suppliers are not even aware of where the products are coming from. So unless it comes from the consumer to want to hold your supplier accountable, so that the broker can also be able to ask the farmer those questions, then we will keep on saying there is a gap. Because it's so hard to say that we will go to a broker and tell them these are the things that you need to check from the farm. You see, when it comes from the consumer wanting the farmer to take accountability, the people in between, they will have to take matters on their own hands and follow up to see that they are also bringing in the market what is right for the consumption.
Okay, because that raises the question, is there a mass market, product tracing or produce tracing that we encourage? Because we've seen, of course, the formal retail sector, the supermarkets, are able to do the traceability. Or this was produced by this farmer, this is the pack house, all that. But for mass market, of which majority of Kenyans operate in, do we have a case in point where you can look at this particular country and say this is what they did, and now they're able to do traceability for a normal even mama mboga pale mtaani? There is a level of traceability, anajua penye hizo nyanya zinatoka.
I can say yes and no, and this is why. When you go to Marikiti and you find those lorries there, the driver will tell you this tomato is from Kimana. But now from Marikiti to our normal mtaa mama mboga, them they don't know. So yes, we might have traceability from the farm up to the local market, but now from the local market to where the consumers are buying their products from, I feel like traceability is lost in between. And so how to capture that, we all need to take responsibilities. Because leaving the traceability issue to the mama mboga, she might not take interest in that. But as a consumer, if you want them to take accountability, that's when now people will start being responsible and wanting to know where products are coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so consumer has a lot of say in this whole journey.
Yes.
Quickly, let's head to the market. And now the distribution to the specific retailers, the mama mbogas, where we interact with this food. So the Marikitis of this world, this is where products is sent and then these guys come and pick. Right there, other than transportation where there is that risk of the lorry carrying it, you don't know what it was carrying the day before. At the market level, what are the gaps that we need to fill to ensure that our food is safe?
At the market level, I feel like when it comes to hygiene, we are neglecting that part. For example, when it is raining, if you have ever visited any market, local market, like let's use Marikiti because that is common, and you see how crates are being handled. Once they offload the crates are put on the ground directly, and it's not a well done floor, and the whole thing, the mud and whatever else is in that mud comes in with the tomatoes.
Okay.
And you see, when we talk about food safety, we are looking at food hazards. We also have hazards in food. And one of the hazards which usually check, it is microbiological hazards, which no one can see with a naked eye. And I don't expect once the mama mbogas pick their crates from Marikiti to their vibandas, they will check the level of microorganisms in those tomatoes.
Yes.
So how in the market the products are being handled, I'll also call out the government, because those markets, because we are selling food and it's food to be consumed, they need to take responsibility and see the standards and the status of the markets that are handling our food. But if we leave it to the people who are doing business there, that is not their work, to be frank. Their work is to go ensure they pick tomatoes and people in the villages and the mtaa are having enough to eat. It's not their work to see the food safety is being maintained. So also government needs to take responsibility when it comes to construction of markets.
Yes.
And now create awareness, because if you don't know, and you won't do it. So creating awareness so that they can know, why are we saying these shelves or this floor, it's done like this because we want tomatoes to be offloaded in this sector. Cabbages, you find them lying on mud, and because they are muddy, maybe the price won't be the same as cabbages which are just fresh from the farm. So you see, at the market, we also need collaboration between the stakeholders to ensure we have food safety and food is safe to be consumed.
Definitely. Quickly, let's go to the consumer, because is the person, as per our discussion, that holds the most power.
Yes.
At the consumption level, what do we need to know about food safety and at the purchasing space and also within our households?
Thank you very much for that question. I'm smiling because we have been doing this awareness, and especially when it comes to kitchen food safety, because yes, we might do all these things ensuring that whatever we are purchasing is safe, but you as a consumer, you can compromise in your own kitchen by how you are handling. You find most people, they don't even know about hand washing before you handle food. And I love the fact that COVID taught us to keep on washing our hands, but most of the times we forget. So when we come to you as a consumer, you need also to be responsible on how you're handling the food. I'll give an example with a familiar case which we know. Someone is boiling like beans, or you're cooking rice, and because you don't want to do a two-step where you will do the rice and then you boil your eggs, what you do is you take your eggs and put inside the rice because you want to save time and energy, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at it from a food safety perspective, I'll tell you that is wrong, because eggs, they carry bacteria like salmonella. The poles on the shell of those eggs. So you have introduced something else which was not there in the rice. You see, maybe during transportation of rice harvesting, it was handled well. But you as a consumer, you are compromising in your own kitchen. But why are you doing it? It's because you are not aware. You don't know that we have issues like food safety. And also, I feel like when we talk about food safety, it has been left to food industries. Because food industries, we really follow because we want our consumers to have the best experience and also to be, to be safe once they consume our products. But when now it comes to like fresh produce from the farm, that's where the gap is, because most people don't know about food safety. And as much as we are trying to create this awareness, we also need to have like collaboration where if it is like a show like this, and I'm really grateful to this team because of seeing the need of us talking about food safety. Most people are having the shows talking about food security, how to do smart agriculture, but no one is talking about food safety.
Definitely.
So we need to have this being done and aired in radio stations, on TVs, so that people can be able to know and learn one or two things about food safety and how they handle food in their own kitchens.
Definitely.
Yes.
Very, very important. As we wrap up this conversation, from all the interventions that you are doing at Arden Fields, at a personal level, I hope you talk to your friends, those who try to boil eggs in rice, and it's dangerous. What are we hoping to achieve in the year 2026 in terms of food safety? Because it can be one of those perpetual conversations, sort of a going concern. But are there targets that we're hoping to reach, even as we close this up?
I love that question. Wow, what are we looking at in 2026? First of all, having this conversation, this is one goal that we are having is at now. Because you see, reaching out to like a team and telling them we need to have this conversation, and they are open-minded. it shows that people are open. It's only that maybe as food safety experts, we are not reaching out to the right people. Also, what we can be looking at in 2026, it's more of awareness, because it starts from awareness. Once you show the interest, let's say, for example, as a farmer, you want to know more about food safety. So you reach out to people like ktnnews Kenya, and they will help you to go through the process of setting your farm right, training your team, even you yourself as the owner of the farm or the founder of whatever farm you're running.
Yes.
And once, let's say, your colleague realizes you're doing things differently, you are not doing the traditional farming, they'll be interested. And that shows that by the year 2027, let's say, we will have a lot of people knowing and understanding what food safety is, holding others accountable, and together, as we have said, since food safety is everyone's responsibility, we will be able to move, even if it's one step, we will be close to our goal of even food security, because we will be holding people accountable so that we can ensure whatever is growing at the farm, it's safe. Whatever I'm consuming and how I'm handling it in my own kitchen, it's safe.
Okay.
Yes.
Very, very important. Thank you very much, Maureen. I think, as you've said, this is a very important conversation. And I'm glad that we've started the year at least. And as the year goes on, it's something that is important. But consumers are empowered. People within the value chain are empowered with the information, and even producers at the farm level are empowered to know and understand their role in food safety, because it only works when all of us work in sync, which is very, very important. Thank you very much. Maureen Mwangi is food safety auditor at ktnnews Kenya, and she says that it's time that we take responsibility as individuals, because, you know, it boils down. It devolves down to you as an individual in whichever space you are in, not only in the food value chain, but also as a consumer, just making sure that your kitchen is well handled when it comes to matters food safety. But that's been a conversation right here at the Farm Kenya Show. Thank you very much for being part of it. Until next time, I'm Nokip Kimboy. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja.